Hello, yeah, I'm wearing this shirt. Last week we talked about how the war in Afghan has hugely benefited American weapons companies. We've looked at your comments. I've seen loads of you saying there's loads of minerals in Afghanistan and all that kind of thing. One thing you might be interested in learning more about is how the mainstream media benefits from ongoing conflict like Afghanistan and war in general. Is the mainstream media a beneficiary of war? Do they therefore tacitly and perhaps in other ways support the idea of ongoing conflict? It's similar, I suppose, to the idea that pharmaceutical companies heavily sponsor the media and therefore are not critiqued accurately and objectively. Let's have a look at this story, see if we can understand together how the mainstream media might be biased in their reporting of the war in Afghanistan, the Taliban, in order to continue to profit from the stories generated by the conflict. Jack Keane, the retired four-star general, appeared on Fox News this week where he told host Harris Faulkner that the administration made a terrible mistake in pulling our troops out and giving the Taliban the opportunity to take the country over. I've sensed that as well. Even in British media, they're sort of saying, oh, we should send some people over. Also, what that does is it kind of creates the idea that we should be in foreign countries. There's savages over there. If we don't get over there, there's going to be chaos. But I think it makes much more sense to stick with the idea of being non-interventionist unless there is a humanitarian crisis of some kind. And then, let's face it, who the bloody hell are we to judge what constitutes a humanitarian crisis when so many of these crises at some point have been engineered or induced by the involvement of American corporations, British imperialist projects. And the fact is that if we're in a country, we're probably benefiting from it financially. If not directly, then indirectly. The veil of nation used to mask corporate agendas. How are the media involved in creating this deception and illusion? What neither Jack Keane nor the host in either of these segments mentioned is that he has more than a merely patriotic interest in the continued occupation. Keane, a former board member at weapons maker General Dynamics, is chair of AM General, the company that makes Humvees. He also sits on the board at Symbiotic Technologies Incorporated, which manufactures military chemical lights and other technology deployed on the battlefield in Afghanistan and other defence contractors. Keane was just one of a parade of ex-military and ex-public officials who appeared on cable news this week to castigate the withdrawal. Among the other talking heads who took to cable news segments for op-ed pages without disclosing their defence industry ties were retired General David Petraeus, Rebecca Grant, former staffer for the Air Force Secretary, Richard Haas, who worked as an advisor to then Secretary of State Colin Powell, and former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice. So essentially, the punditry and opinion we're receiving on the news comes from people with a vested interest in ongoing conflict due to their relationships with weapons manufacturers. Wouldn't it be interesting if the news sounded like this? Here's Condoleezza Rice, she sits on these boards, she has these kind of relationships. Wouldn't it be mad if she said stuff that would profit her? Now, what are you going to say? I think we should... Hey, you ruined me in the intro! You know, all we're asking for is truth, transparency, and candour. Man, I feel bad enough when I tell you that my podcast is on a bloody Apple. I'd feel bad enough that you're watching this on the YouTube or whatever. But what do we do? What do we do? At least we're transparent. And one thing that's almost transparent is the top I'm wearing that's basically cutting off the air supply to my brain. It's so tight. Cable hosts from Fox News, CNN and MSNBC described these guests by their military credentials, not their current jobs, as representatives of the defence industry, a sector that has seen extraordinary profits from the 20-year occupation of Afghanistan. If you went, and now to give us an opinion on this war, someone that benefits from this war, what's your opinion? Carry on doing the war. Thank you very much for coming on. And now to tell you about the impact of these drugs, someone that benefits from these drugs being sold. What do you think about these drugs? Carry on prescribing these drugs. And now to tell you about these cars, someone that benefits from these cars being able to be sold without restriction. What do you think about these cars? Keep selling them. They might as well just put this on the news. Keep selling it, keep buying it, keep selling it. That's all of the information. Cable news has been criticised in the past for its refusal to reveal conflicts of interest. In 2008, the New York Times exposed direct influence by the Pentagon of retired generals appearing on cable to talk about the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. It's such a cliche, isn't it, that people that worked in the defence aspect of government, defence departments of government, go to work for defence industry companies. The revolving door, you know about that. They go into government, they go into big business, and round and round and round it goes. Essentially, aside from the visual taxonomical distinction visible only to us, nothing's really changing. It's one beast. Last year, Intercept covered countless links between on-air former military figures defending the assassination of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani and the military-industrial complex. These conflicts of interest don't just manifest on cable, they can also be found in online and print journalism. Condoleezza Rice, Secretary of State under President Bush, took to the pages of the Washington Post to argue for more time. 20 years was not enough to complete the journey to a stable government, she said. She was describing her government titles as well as her current one. Director of the Hoover Institute at Stanford University. Left off the bio was her service on the board of C3A1, a defence contractor. Like, when they're giving her that position on the board, it's because she had credentials of being in government and because those credentials enable her to participate in media. What I suppose you need is a media, well, is it an independent media? A media that is not beholden to sponsors with such mercantile incentives as to conduct a war abroad in order to continue making profit in spite of the human cost? It's mental, isn't it, that something as sort of extreme as that is taking place at that level? These are proper people, Colin Powell, Condoleezza Rice. So these are like legit, proper government, possible president type people. So imagine how it's going to go down the line. You think in 5 years' time, you're not going to be reading Kamala Harris, oh, she's working at this joint. What's she going to go and do? Do you think she's going to be at an animal charity? Do you think she's going to be at a homeless shelter? No, she's going to be working at something to do with defence, something to do with tech. Of course they are. That's how it works. Don't be surprised by it. Play this tape forward. We're like, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to cut this and use this when it happens in the future, if I'm not in jail by then because of making these type of videos. Many media outlets also tapped former members of Congress to weigh in on the troop withdrawal without disclosing financial ties to the defence contractors that have profited handsomely from the conflict. Former Secretary of Defence Leon Panetta appeared on CNN with John King to lament a Bay of Pigs moment. He was referred to by his previous government service for Democrats rather than a senior counsellor to Beacon Global Strategies, a defence consulting firm, or as a member of software corporation Oracle's board of directors. Trey Gowdy, a former GOP lawmaker from South Carolina, appeared on Fox News to deliver a stern monologue that US troops should not return home unless we're leaving Afghanistan safer and freer and better for Afghan women and girls. All I want is for Afghan women and girls to live a good life. I wake up in the morning, oh, how the hell are Afghan women and girls doing right now? Hello, it's us from Global Beacon Strategies. Get on the news, will you, and say there should be a war? I can't think about that right now. I'm too busy thinking about Afghan women and girls. Not like that. Thinking about their rights. After his service in Congress, Gowdy joined Nelson Mullins, Riley and Scarborough LLP, a South Carolina-based law and lobbying firm that serves a range of defence contractors before Congress and helps defence clients navigate the procurement process with the Pentagon. So there you go. The media, by appointing them kind of pundits, continues to pursue narratives that are beneficial to the very industries that you would least want making decisions about military matters. Of course, no one here thinks that Biden's doing a great job. In fact, let me state categorically, what a balls up, what a cock up, what a load of nonsense. But the reason that those administrations are so crap is because they're continually serving the ties with big businesses and corporations in allegiance with their media partners. Jim Narekas, editor at Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting, said such conflicts of interest put a premium on potential atrocities over existing ones. The imaginary future bloodshed of the Taliban has so much more emotional weight in the coverage than the actual people who have been killed by the US in the last 20 years, he said. There's a symbiotic relationship between media outlets who need sources, the weapons industry that need favourable news coverage, and the former military officials who need jobs, and it all works out together. Note that these stories played out in media institutions, mainstream institutions from the left and right across the spectrum. Remember that both political parties were involved because they all have the same ends. They all serve the same goal. Do not trust the mainstream media. Do not trust your government. Do not trust big business. Slay the beast. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, give us a comment. Let me know what you think, how we can improve this content for you. What stories do you want to see covered? What do you want us to tell you about in more detail? If you like my conversation, check out my podcast on Luminary, Under the Skin. You can get the app and download it, or you can get it off of Apple. I do 2 podcasts a week, one a guided meditation, one a deep conversation. I do free content too, where I do guided meditation here. Check this out, my side channel, Awakening. And if you enjoyed this video, have a look at this one too, and sign up to my mailing mailing list at russellbrand.com so I can communicate with you directly. Not that directly. There's a link in the description. Thank you.